guys, this is Jason, Colorado Mountain Man Survival. We got a treat for you today. I'm working on making some pemmican, and I got a hold of Jason the butcher, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself. But he's got a bear that we're gonna render down the fat and use that to make the pemmican. I'm gonna turn you over to him. He's gonna talk to you real quick about what he's doing, and then we'll go from there.
Are we on?
Yeah.
All right. So we got some bear fat. What I did was I cut as much of the meat off, or all the meat off, as possible, because that'll make the liquid brown. And I've got some sitting over there, setting up right now. But what you really want is this nice white. There's a little bit, you can see some blood in it. That's just blood. That's not actual meat. But you want some really nice white fat. And this is fat from the back, this is fat from the leg, this is pretty much any kind of fat. So what I did was I got my pot at about 180. I've been doing this for a long time, so I don't really use any kind of thermometers. I just kind of know what's going on. And then you just toss it in. And you want it on low. I'm gonna turn it back on again. You want it really low so it doesn't burn, but it melts. You don't want it to turn brown right away. You just want it to melt. Eventually what you'll get after, I don't know, this takes about an hour or so. This is about 2.5, 3 pounds of fat. So this will probably take an hour and a half, all in all, to render down. But what you end up with at the end is little crispy chunks of fat, crackling.
You eat those?
Yeah, you can eat these. Well, my hands, I got raw on my hands. I don't want to do it. The thing with bear is you want to be really careful about, you really always want to cook it and be above 165 degrees because of trichinosis. Bears do carry trichinosis.
And what's trichinosis do?
It's like basically a worm that gets into your blood system and it makes you sick. You vomit violently and it's curable. You got to go to the doctor and stuff like that, but it's no fun. I believe Steve Ranella ate some bear meat raw, him and his crew, and they all contracted trichinosis. So always cook bear meat past 165. That's the best.
Okay, so here's our first step here. We got the meat and the fat. We're gonna cut that down. Take off the remnants, the meat remnants, and this is what we're left with. We're gonna let this cool. When we make pemmican, you're gonna do like a 1:1 ratio. So we're gonna use 1 part fat to 1 part dried meat to 1 part, typically you use blueberries, but you can use any sort of fruit. But blueberries have high in antioxidants and different nutrients that you can get out of that. And then this is kind of the leftover fat, kind of like the pork rinds.
Yeah.
Basically what that is. So you can eat those, whatever, but you don't want that stuff in with that. You need to strain it. He's got a strainer here that he strained everything through to make sure there's you see those bits of stuff in there. You don't want that. You need to have clean fat when you're mixing it in with your meat product. And what we're gonna do, probably not do it today, but I'm going to take meat, whatever kind of meat I have, I'm going to dry it either in the oven or over the campfire or with a meat dryer. I'm going to dry it completely, and then I got to powder that meat. And then I got blueberries. I'm going to powder the blueberries and then put the meat and the blueberries together. And then I'm going to cover it with this fat. We'll warm the fat back up and we'll dump it over. And that's what pemmican is. And then it's good for like 4 years. So if you were to be traveling, back in the day, they would make that so they could travel long distances and still have the food.
So as you can see, we're getting close to this almost hitting what that is. So we've been taking a little bit longer. We've been here for a couple hours, but what happened was I had the heat too high, and I'll show you what happens. I started out with the heat a little bit too high, and it turned this yellow color, which isn't bad. It's just a different color. It's not going to come out white. So I turned the heat down just a little bit more, and it's pretty clear at this point. Here, I'll throw that in here. As you can see it, you can see how clear that is compared to the yellow. And all I do is just pour that in there and then into that for cooling. So we're almost done. I'm going to do one more pour, and then I'm going to turn it into cracklins like that. Fry it up.
Looks tasty.
We actually have, check it out, Jason. This is turning pretty white already.
Yeah, that's some good looking stuff right there.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Okay, so here's the two pourings of the bear fat, the rendered down fat. This one we got too hot, so you can see the color difference. Too hot, still usable, but it's going to have a different flavor. And then this is the stuff that's more gooder, more better, whatever you want to call it. But that once this cools, it's going to start looking like that. But, yeah, keep your temperature low. What'd you say? About
160 to
160, 180.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So that's the strained stuff. We use cheesecloth. Is that cheesecloth in there?
No, actually, I just used a piece of cloth that I had.
Oh, yeah, it just looks like a.
Yeah.
This is a bar towel. You stole a bar towel.
Kind of, yeah. But it takes quite a bit. It takes a little while to strain through.
Right. Well, yeah. The longer it takes
kinda,
to strain, the more.
The more pure it is. And you can just kind of
it
do
is.
this with it with something.
Yeah.
And then I'm on my final round here.
Yeah.
And then after I strain this, I'm gonna get it super hot. I'm gonna throw those back in and really brown them up. And then we got little crackling bacon, basically bear bacon.
That's what this is. The
Bear bacon bits. Yeah.
So I mean, other than just eating those, what would you recommend? I mean, how would you use those? How would you eat those? Just.
I would mix them with like my hash browns or my eggs. You could garnish them. You could even do like a caramel, add salt, so get them kind of not super salty, but salty like cracklins.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of toss them over ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
All right. With some chocolate. With some chocolate.
Yeah. Or you do caramel or something like that.
Add that to ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have the chunky, the salty, and the savory kind of working together.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very cool. So there you go. Add your bear bits or bear cracklin to ice cream for a gourmet treat.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see where it's setting up there, where it's not as liquidy.
Yep.
And that's beautiful. I mean, that's gorgeous.
Very cool. I'm gonna have the best pemmican in the world.
He's getting the burnt pemmican. Not really.
Thanks, buddy.
I'll use it for something.
For your toast.
Yeah, I mean, it just, what happened was I had the heat up just a little bit too high when I started, and it created like a little bit of browning on the bottom of the pan. And then when I strained it out and then poured it in there, I noticed that it was yellow. So it was just, I had it probably maybe 15 or 20 degrees too hot. I was probably right at that 200 degree mark. And so I just brought my flame down, took it off the flame, let it cool a little bit, and then started over.
Yeah, so you just got to make sure it's not smoking, right?
Exactly. Remember, we saw smoke, and we were like, oh, I was like, oh crap, and I slid it to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want that fat to melt
Yeah.
without burning. Because
Yep.
if you burn it, it's going to get like that, and
Yeah,
the flavor is
this
just going to be
little
off.
bit of yellow is going to end up looking like this
Yeah.
in the end. But this yellow, as you can see, it's starting to separate a little bit. See how it's kind of white and then it grows into a dark. It's still going to be white, but it's going to have a yellow tinge to it.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a flavor.
All right, that was Rendering Bear Fat with Jason Nauert. I probably butchered his last name. It's not as easy to say as Marsteiner. But if you don't know who Jason is, I'll show you a link in the comments below. Jason is a world-class butcher. He travels the globe teaching top chefs how to butcher animals, wild game, and he teaches how to butcher out in the field. And I'm fortunate enough to have him in my own backyard. Look for classes in the future with Jason up with me up at camp. So next I'm going to head out and start doing some working on the meat for this pemmican. I went out and got some steak. Here's my steak, probably about 3 pounds of meat here. Use any sort of meat. Typically you're going to use the same sort of meat that you use with your fat, but we're just going to use beef. Now I said earlier that you use the same ratio 1 to 1 to 1. That's by volume. So if you use 1 cup of fat, you're going to use 1 cup of meat and 1 cup of blueberries. So what I'm going to do with this meat, I'm just going to cut it into really thin strips, and then I'm going to dry it out. But we're going to talk to you about that in the next video. So stay tuned for that. So right now I'm going to start processing this meat, and while that's drying, I actually got Jason's bear hide, and I'm going to start tanning that as well. So I'll have another video about tanning bear hides. But yeah, just keep an eye out for Jason Nauert. That guy's going places. He's already been places. So I'm really excited and privileged to have him out with me with the bear fat and possibly up at camp. But thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.